So to recap my understanding of this whole analyze so far, basically we know that the average person's natural first instinct is that something like first-person shooters would be the game rather properly aimed towards a mature audience, in other words, older people, while colorful platformers like Super Mario and whatnot are where the expectation is that the average audience for it is mainly kids, by the first, often common instinct from a person's thinking. However, for the record, it seems to be the opposite. Kids in fact plays first-person shooters more than mature audiences does, as rather mature audiences seems rather focused at the game series like Super Mario and Pac-Man. While there seems to be no statistical proof of this statement, it seems to be accurate to gamers' experience by playing games like Call of Duty online. Again, there's no real statistical proof I can go by to prove that this is 100% accurate to say. It is an assumption I'd consider reasonable at that. Anyways, as we noticed by most people's thinking on how Sonic should be compared to what he actually is that people are just in general often misled to how Sonic was at its core. If we're going by Sonic 1 not to leave ourselves confused here. In Sonic Colors and Generations' writing, we hear a lot of classic Sonic fans state how those games capture the Sonic series' tone perfectly, how the way Sonic in general acts on these games goes well with the source material, which are the classic games in this case. By what we just analyzed thus far, we seem to get the opposite conclusion because of the fact on how the game communicates the atmosphere of Sonic's world as a world of wonder that is in a fight against technology, because an evil scientist is making it that way. The game had no dialogue and whatnot, however the game, thanks to its complex backgrounds and music tones, managed to communicate this core concept. What people seem to remember Sonic 1 for mainly is Green Hill Zone alone, as if that is the whole Sonic 1 experience and nothing more. The idea that all the classic Sonic games in general are simply put light-hearted platform games. I think that most people think this way because of how Green Hill Zone is easily far more memorable than the rest. In Green Hill Zone, unlike most of the other zones, you're offered to play a lot with Sonic's physics and momentum, which is unlike any other main character's physics in a platformer. If you compare a moment like this to something like this,
Hey Tails, you missed the BBBE.
Huh?
Best boss beating ever!
you can clearly see that Scrap Brain Zone's scene brings a far more dramatic scene with itself thanks to how the context was used. There's no dialogue, Sonic is simply witnessing the consequences of not stopping Eggman. That is more than enough to create a meaningful as well as impactful scene. Not all scenes needs dialogue to be taken seriously, where in Sonic Colors' scene there is dialogue. Now, the problem in itself isn't that there is dialogue, it is the way it was used. Sonic and Tails completely overshadows Eggman with their jokes, communicating that he is not any form of threat whatsoever.
Anyway, it seems an evil man, and you might know him, who they call Baldy Nosehair.
Baldy Nosehair! That's the best thing I've heard all day! I gotta remember that one.
I know, I've already written it down.
Where something like Scrap Brain Zone shows that you can take a story about the Blue Hedgehog seriously if the context is done right, instead of being desperate to be stuck on the idea that
characters that are hedgehogs cannot be taken seriously regardless of context.
the context is the key in storytelling. You can choose to give a game dialogue and really ugly bad guys, but the bad guys will not be taken seriously unless the context of the scenes in the game is made with that idea in mind. Do you see the problem with the new writers of the recent Sonic games? They seem to have no real inner thoughts of what they are even doing with the tone of the story, or how in general this tone of dialogue and writing that they are going with will affect the Sonic series. Remember, SEGA are paying these people. I expect SEGA to hire guys that are passionate about being writers for Sonic games in the very least, instead of hiring random dudes that knows little about the characters to begin with. Sonic Colors' tone of the atmosphere is closer to a cartoon than it is to a classic Sonic game. The classics had a sense of context that managed to make the games rather neutral, more than something along the lines of light-hearted or childish in the overall tone. This is what I meant by that Sonic, at least in its core, is a cool concept. Don't get me wrong, the writers are still able to keep him cool if they do the context to the scenes Sonic is being put in right. However, with Sonic's track record recently, I doubt that it will happen anytime soon. Okay, fine. I guess Sonic Forces gives me at least somewhat of hope. All the other classic Sonic games were also neutral. I think that is pretty self-explanatory, so I'd figured to talk about the Dreamcast Sonic games with how they treated their demographic. Putting Sonic Adventure 1's plot shortly, a creature named Chaos that was found by Eggman eventually becomes Eggman's helper to fulfill his needs. However, eventually Eggman loses complete control over Chaos, as Chaos then spreads destruction in Station Square. A fairly straightforward plot. However, the context is where things truly don't let me down. Throughout your journey as Sonic and Tails, you go after the Chaos Emeralds to do progress, just to get your progress interrupted in the middle of it all. Sonic and Tails is straightforward with their doings, and they certainly don't crack up on funny jokes towards Eggman in the ugliest of situations. The plot makes sure not to waste your time. Tails crashes with the tornado, so Sonic goes to pick up Tails. Tails tells Sonic that he has got to show him something, so Sonic follows along. Simple, effective, and most importantly, it doesn't waste your goddamn time.
Baldy nose hair!
SA2, unlike SA1, I'd argue was even better at appealing to a wider audience. SA2 gave us Shadow. The way he was introduced into the Sonic series was really good. Shadow had gone through a horrible past, and from that fact alone, he was given an in-depth character behavior from the writers. Unlike the others of the Sonic series, he's far more like that guy that had gone through so much that his happiness was destroyed. It is like he's the Levi Ackerman from Attack on Titan of the Sonic series. I like this. It gives special value and meaning to this character that truly makes him stand out. All around, SA2 took advantage of nearly all the characters, with some exceptions like Amy and Knuckles. But even those characters were given to do some interaction with their friends, so you at least felt somewhat the thrill from them all being with you. Sonic Heroes and onwards is where storytelling and wide appeal went incredibly downhill. The idea of Sonic Heroes was that it was supposed to appeal more to the classic Sonic fans than the Sonic Adventure fans. The problem in itself is that this is where the idea continued to spread that the classic Sonic games were all light-hearted platformers and nothing more. However, another assumption of mine is that this game is the game that started this trend. The context is almost non-existing in Sonic Heroes, as the characters fight against one another, and the reasons behind it makes no sense. Like for example how Amy faced against Sonic to make him marry her. This makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. And how Sonic faced against Shadow even though they were good pals. Let us not forget how people around Shadow doesn't let him know of his past even though he admits to have lost his memory. The list goes on, but I think you get by this point the issue. This feels far more like a reboot than a continuation of SA2, because of how it lacks a connection to what happened previously. It doesn't have to be SA2 Part 2, but at the very least, make things like why people doesn't explain Shadows' past for him make sense, rather than leave the reason behind it as a mystery that will forever be unsolved. Shit happens in Sonic Heroes that doesn't really move the plot forward, as it is all mostly pointless conflicts that makes no sense. From here it feels even more and more like the series constantly rebooted itself multiple times in its tone, writing, and appeal. In Sonic Colors and Generations, the writers treat Sonic alike the way he was treated in Heroes. Sonic's overconfident and cocky, no signs of fear, and is incredibly overpowered. This is why Sonic nowadays has overshadowed the other characters. He's far too flawless. I believe that this also helped Sonic to feel less like an interesting character to adults. The problem with the Sonic series isn't that it cannot appeal to all ages. It is how the writers keep shooting themselves in the foot by thinking it cannot work and had never worked, and goes along with that logic to use it as their reasoning for why they write the characters the way they do. I'm tired of SEGA keep using this excuse followed by people like Stephen Frost. What the Sonic series need is at the moment is in the very least writers that have passion for Sonic and his wide appeal. No. Sonic is for kids. Accept it, guys. Whatever, I guess.